This video clearly shows criminal law since killing someone is a major crime. These gentlemen decide to kill some children and people in a neighborhood and flee the scene. The sentences will be major.
Pull back my covers, and this is what I see on women underwears. Now this may be mine, but this ain't no way this could be mine. This can't fit not one of my boobs.
That won't work out.
Not
That
one.
won't work out. Mr. Flannery, what is your response to that accusation?
Okay, I bought the underwear at a lingerie store.
For her?
Yes, for her. I got the wrong size. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm guilty of getting the wrong
This
size.
is civil law because in the first video, there's a husband and a wife, and the husband is being accused of cheating on the wife because she found a bra that wasn't her size and panties that weren't her size either. There is no involvement with the police, so therefore it is civil law. They're just trying to figure out
You were
legal.
paying your rent, which I assume you were.
Right.
There had to be a reason that she asked you to leave.
Right.
She says the reason she asked you to leave is because you were a pig.
Right.
And the room was disgusting, and it cost at least your security deposit to clean up after the mess you left.
Right.
What kind of mess was it?
There was no mess that I know of, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have photographs of the mess?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
Before, bathroom, bedroom, and kitchen.
Did you have all kinds of food in your room?
Yes, I removed that before, though.
Why did you keep food in your room?
I just did not have time to take it out, and there was a small trash can in the
Second
kitchen.
video also describes civil law because it's an interaction between a landlord and the person who lives in her building. The person was being very messy and the landlord wanted to kick her out, but she didn't want to be kicked out because she didn't think she was messy.
Civil law. Civil law deals with disputes between individuals or organizations, typically involving private rights and compensation. In a trial, there's usually 6 jurors, but there could be up to 12.
The process of a civil court. First, the plaintiff brings about the case, and then the standard of proof, which is the evidence, is brought to the case. Next, the preponderance of evidence is where the plaintiff must convince the court that based on the evidence presented, it is more likely than not the plaintiff's claim is true. Following, jury with a judgment. This is when the jury comes up with the verdict and the judge will either accept, reject, or contradict it. Lastly, reparations based on judgment. This is the compensation ordered by a court to treat harm or loss suffered by a party due to the actions of another.
Examples of civil law. Breach of contract. When one party fails to fulfill their contractual obligations. Example, not paying for services you agreed to. Personal injury, where individuals seek compensation for injuries caused by accidents, like a car accident. Property disputes, disagreements over ownership, use, or boundaries of land and property. Divorce and family law. Legal matters concerning the discussion of marriage, child custody, and support.
Criminal law deals with offenses against society, the public, or government. A criminal case typically has 12 jurors.
The process of criminal. To find someone guilty, prosecution must provide the act that occurred, provide the act was purposeful, overt act, something a person does knowingly, reckless. An act is reckless when person knows this act has risk for harm against another. Act of intent is always in question. The procedure: first, they charge, prosecute, then assign punishment. It varies by jurisdiction.
The prosecution's responsibility to place burden of proof upon defendant is beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty. This relieves the defendant proving their innocence. This is also known as the presumption of innocence.
Levels of crimes, misdemeanors. M1 is the most serious type of misdemeanor and often results in penalties that can last up to 5 years of incarceration and higher fines. An example of this would be simple assault, driving under the influence, and possession of controlled substances, which depends on the type and amount you have. Another type of misdemeanor is M2 and 3. These are less severe misdemeanors, with misdemeanor 2 typically carrying a penalty of up to 2 years in jail, and misdemeanor 3 giving smaller penalties. Examples of these would be petty theft and vandalism. Felonies. The most severe type of felony is a first-degree felony, and this is typically punishable by life in prison or death in states that have the death penalty. An example of this would be first-degree murder. A second-degree felony is less severe than a first, but still carries significant penalties that usually involve 5 to 25 years in prisons and or fines. An example of this would be burglary. A third-degree felony is less severe than the first two mentioned, but is still punishable by 1 to 10 years in prison with fines. An example of this would be arson. Fourth-degree felony is considered the lowest level of felony, but its penalties can still include up to 5 years in prisons with fines. An example of this would be the possession of child pornography. Uniform crime reports versus victimization surveys. A UCR is compiled by the FBI, and it tracks the crime reported to law enforcement agencies across the United States. It includes data on major offenses that occur, such as murder, theft, and assault, but only accounts for the crimes that are actually reported within the UCR. Victimization surveys are surveys such as the National Crime Victimization Survey, also known as the NCVS, which ask individuals about their experiences with crime, regardless of whether those crimes were reported to the police. They provide insights into unreported crimes, giving a broader picture of crime rates and victimization.